So far, we've learned how to graph sine and cosine when they have different amplitudes and different periods. So I want to look again at the general forms, and we're going to add a new letter to consider. So these are the general forms for sine and cosine, and we've dealt with the a and the b before. A represents the amplitude of both sine and cosine, so let's write that down. A is amplitude. Okay, we still find the period by doing 2 pi over b, but you notice there's a new letter I've added, and that's c. And c is going to have to do with horizontal shifts, as you see I've written up top. These are also called phase shifts, but the horizontal shifts have to do with the c. To find the horizontal shift, you need to do c over b. So you have to do c divided by b to find your shift. And if it's a minus, you shift right. If it's a plus, you shift left. Now I'm going to show you both today, and you're going to practice both in your homework, likely, and classwork and such. But just so you know, on tests and quizzes, I'm only going to do shifts to the right. That's just the way it's going to be. So again, what I'm referring to here is this part. These are both minus, so right now if I had a C in there, I'd be shifting to the right. But if those are pluses in there, then it's actually a shift to the left. And that may seem backwards. It kind of is in my mind anyway. Seems like subtraction to send you backwards, which is left, and plus send you forwards, but it's not. So again, minus is a shift right, plus is a shift left. Okay, so let's look at how that affects some different functions. So here we have 3 sine of x minus pi. So now we need to mark 3 things. Amplitude is 3. I get that from right here. It's the number in front of the sine. For period, I get 2 pi over 1 because there's an understood 1 in front of the x. So just 2 pi for the period. And I shift, since it's minus, I shift right. And I shift pi over 1. So remember, it's c over b. C over b. So I shift right, pi. So here's what happens. I draw this, and instead of starting at 0 like I normally do, I need to shift over to pi. So pi is where I'll start. I draw my normal sine curve. I get something like that. So I need to mark that endpoint. Okay, you need to be very careful here. We're starting at pi, and our period is 2 pi. That means it takes us 2 pi to go a full cycle. So if we're starting at pi and we go another 2 pi, then we'll end at 3 pi. Okay, another way to think about it is to get your endpoint, you just need to add these two together. Okay? So to get your endpoint, you just add those two together. You add your starting point plus your period, and that will give you the endpoint. Okay, we still need to mark all the spots in between. One thing you can do here is just take the average and find the middles. In other words, halfway between pi and 3 pi would be 2 pi. Halfway between 1 pi and 2 pi would be 1.5 pi. Halfway between 2 pi and 3 pi would be 2.5 pi. So we get those 3 marked, and then we also still have to mark the amplitude. So 3 and negative 3. And that's it. So let's move on and try the next one. 4 sine of 2x minus 2 pi over 3. So the amplitude is 4. I get that from right there. The period is going to turn out to be pi because we do 2 pi divided by b. So that gives us just pi. And then we shift, again, since there's a minus right here, we're shifting to the right. And we do c, 2 pi over 3, over b, which is 2. And when you work that out, you just get pi over 3. So we shift to the right, pi over 3. So as I draw this, instead of starting at 0, I start at pi over 3. My period this time is just 1 pi. So let me show you something in the calculator that might help this a little bit. People get thrown off because of the pi. What you really need to do is just kind of ignore the pi when you're doing the adding, and here's what I mean. Pi over 3 is 1/3 pi, and our period is 1 pi. So to figure out where that leaves us, we do 1/3 plus 1, which gives us 4/3. So pi over 3 plus 1 pi is 4 pi over 3. Because all you have to do is add the 1/3, which is an understood 1 right here, 1/3, plus the pi, that's our period. So our starting point is 1 pi over 3, or pi over 3, and the end point is 4 pi over 3. I do the normal sine curve. I know my amplitude's 4, so I go up to 4, or down to -4. And again, let me show you how you can use the calculator to find these points in between. Okay, the way I'm suggesting you do it is that you find the very middle first, which is between pi over 3 and 4 pi over 3. So instead of worrying about the pi's, just add the stuff without pi's. So just add 1/3 plus 4/3, and then divide by 2. So we get 5 pi over 6, and that would be the center. Okay, now we need to find the center between these two. So I just add the two of them together. 1 over 3 plus 5 over 6, then divide by 2, and I get 7 pi over 12. So notice I'm just ignoring the pi, and then in my final answer I'm putting the pi back in. So 7 pi over 12. Now I need to find this spot. So I add 5 over 6 plus 4 over 3. You add that together, divide by 2, and you get 13 pi over 12. And that's how you do it. Okay, so that's two sine ones. Let's try some with cosine now. Okay, so here's one example I have where we're going to be shifting left because of this plus right here. So real quickly we'll go through this. Amplitude is 1/2. The period is going to be pi over 2 because you do 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2. And then the shift, let me move this down a little bit. The shift is going to be to the left, and we do C over B. So it shifts left, pi over 4. Alright, so you're going to have to watch real carefully on this one. We're going to start, because we're shifting to the left, that's this direction. So we're going to start over here at negative pi over 4. Because we're shifting left, that means negative pi over 4. Now we need to figure out our endpoint. Remember, to figure out your endpoint, you take your starting point and add your period. So we need to add negative pi over 4 to pi over 2. Well, that's really just negative 1/4 plus 1/2. So we should end at pi over 4, positive pi over 4. Now remember the shape of cosine. Cosine starts up high, dips down, and goes back up high. So that would be the shape for cosine. Okay, hopefully you can tell the center is going to be 0, because that's halfway between negative pi over 4 and positive pi over 4. But then to find this spot, we'll do negative 1/4 plus 0 divided by 2. Get negative pi over 8. That will be positive pi over 8. And we know based on our amplitude that it peaks at 1/2, and it is at its lowest at negative 1/2. Okay, let's look at another cosine one. Here our amplitude is 3/2. Our period is going to be pi, because we do 2 pi over 2, 2 pi over whatever number's in front here. And then our shift is going to be to the right, because it's minus. And we do pi over 2. So we shift to the right, pi over 2. So actually, let me draw that a little differently. There we go. So we shift to the right, pi over 2, meaning we start at pi over 2. That's our starting point. Now to get our end point, we need to add the period. So pi over 2 plus pi, that's 1/2 plus 1. So 1/2 plus 1 gives us 3/2. So the end point is going to be 3 pi over 2. Alright, let's go and get our shape. Cosine starts up top, goes down to the bottom, and goes up, back where it started. So its midpoint, to find that, we just add the 2 together and divide by 2. So 1/2 plus 3/2 divided by 2 just gives us 1. So the middle is 1 pi. And then to get these points, we got to find the middle of pi and pi over 2. That's the middle of 1/2 and 1. So we get 3/4, or 3 pi over 4. Just to save time, I'll go ahead and tell you that this one will be 5 pi over 4 if you add these two together and divide by 2. And we know based on our amplitude that this peaks at 3/2 and goes its lowest at -3/2. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful to you. If you want to practice these, the sections in your book that have those are up there on the screen now. And good luck.